Hello everyone, I just wanted to do an update of some of my mostly Trichocerus plants which are in need of repotting. So after they were germinated, I potted them into these compostable little pots, which the idea was that they would allow water to evaporate quite quickly through the outside. I think it worked okay. The only thing is, as they get older, the roots start to come through, and it's quite difficult to separate the pot. And when you take the pot apart, you end up with this. You can't reuse the pots or anything. They're not really meant to be reused. But the thing is, these plants have now very much outgrown those pots, so I'm going to do an up pot into something slightly bigger. I've also had a couple of Myrtilla cactus heads from where I've done grafting, and as you can see, they've rooted quite nicely in my very dry, very well draining aerated substrate. So what I'm going to do is just put these up into something more permanent and let them grow. And the final thing I've got here, one of my plants suffered from the wind. It blew off, the pot fell off the shelf and it broke. There's the root, quite a decent root. Actually not entirely sure what this plant is, but I'm going to attempt to reroot the head, and maybe if I can replant this, it'll grow some offsets and establish itself. So I'll get on with it, and then I'll do an update once I've finished doing the repotting. While I've been repotting these, I've made a discovery which I think is probably worth just documenting. So back in the early days, I decided to transplant some of my seedlings, 4 seedlings at a time, into these lovely square plastic pots, which are absolutely brilliant because they're quite small. They pack together nicely when you put them together on a seedling tray and so forth. But the thing is, I'm discovering these plants are completely and utterly root bound, because I've let them grow too long in the pot. And what I've discovered is that as I take them out, the roots between the 4 plants are completely intertangled with each other. It's completely packed. If I can show you in a minute, it's difficult to do it with one hand holding the camera. And what's happening as I take them apart is, of course, I'm causing plenty of root damage, which means I'm going to have to be very careful to make sure I don't get root rot. So I'll show you the roots of this when I've taken them out of the pot. And there we go. It's a complete mass of roots here. They were long overdue being repotted, and it's really quite difficult to separate them without causing significant root damage. So I think the lesson for the future is that although these pots are very nice, they've got nice drainage holes, they don't let out loose soil and so forth, they're very good, but I'm going to stick to using just 1 plant per pot, and obviously I can let it grow a little bit bigger than these have, because the roots, you're not separating the roots from separate plants. All you're doing is loosening the root ball from 1 plant, which is less likely to cause significant damage. So we can see here that we have one big mass with those roots in. It's actually still quite damp from, obviously, from when I last watered it. This is really quite difficult to separate. It's going to take a bit of effort, and I know the roots are going to be damaged. So what I've done with these is I've taken the soil away. I'm not actually going to repot them. What I'm going to do is lay them out on a dry surface indoors to let the roots dry out thoroughly, and then I'm going to repot them perhaps in 3 or 4 days' time. So here are my plants that I've been allowing to dry. It's actually been 10 days since I did the previous video segment. These have been drying out for 10 days. Indoors, warm environment, they're thoroughly dry, and now I believe they're ready to pot up. While I was filming for this, Lynn from Desert Plants of Avalon did a video on her Trichocerus repotting. I'd like to give her a shout out. It's a very detailed video she's done with a lot more information that I've been able to give about Trichocerus seedlings. And do follow her channel. I'll post a link to her channel in the comment for this video. She's been doing videos for years, possibly decades for all I know, hundreds and thousands of videos all about cactus and succulent plants and how to care for them and how to look after them and so forth. A wealth of information. I've learned a lot of my tricks from her, so I do thoroughly recommend you you go and check out her channel. So that's most of these plants now potted up into individual pots. I've also put top dressing on. The reason for that is twofold. One, to prevent the perlite in the mixture from floating to the surface when I water them, because I often have to top water them. The second is that most of these are columnar cacti, and they become very top heavy as they get bigger. So if you have something to weigh them down, that's a distinct advantage. The number of plants I've dropped because I wasn't paying attention and they fell over and they were top heavy and the soil wasn't heavy enough to hold them in, I've lost count of. The exceptions are these plants here, which I've taken the soil off, I've separated the roots, and I'm going to let those dry out for a few days indoors, and then I'll plant them up in a few days' time. And this succulent, I've done much the same thing. I've put it in soil. It's had a few days for any callousing over to take place from the breakage. I'm not really sure I know what I'm doing with these, so if any of you have got any comments about how the best way to get them to root, then please comment below, and I look forward to reading your comments. So thank you everyone, and hope you enjoy this video. Do leave a comment, and happy cactusing.